Hello, I want to give you another quick update on the Pi3C modeler and also on the Spaceship engine room, which I mentioned last time would have baked textures, so I'll show what those mean and what they look like. But first of all, let's have a look at the Pi3C modeler. What I've introduced to the Pi3C modeler is two new shapes, and the first shape is these two. The first and second shape we've introduced are these two shapes in the middle here. One is known as Extrude and the other one is known as Lathe. So let's show you what the Extrude one does first of all. As you would expect, if you've ever done extruded shapes before, we start with an outline. Currently we're only doing straight lines. I'm not yet supporting curves, but I basically draw the outline and then join it up at the end. I can then do continue to add more shapes until I'm finished, and the way I actually finish the shapes is by clicking the right mouse button. But you'll notice also, because I can add more shapes, I can actually do a shape in a shape, which you can probably guess what that might do. Let's just click the right mouse button now and we'll see that that will actually extrude those two shapes there. So we've got H and E, and that shape that I drew inside the other one comes out as a whole. So it's quite useful creating shapes or extrudes that way, and it's nice and quick. So let's just add a little bit more to finish it off. Let's put an O at the end there as well. So basically I'm just doing a rapid succession of straight lines to give my effect of a curve, and it comes out alright. So there we have the word hello using the new extrude shape. I will be adding one or two extra features on that, and that I can actually delete. If I like, or we've got one or two odd lines there, I can actually hit the delete and it will delete the last point, or it will go between and navigate between them, but that will be coming soon. The next shape I want to show you, if I move that out the way, is the lathe shape. So I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of what the lathe shape does as well. Now the lathe shape basically allows me to draw one half of the shape, and when I click the right mouse button it will come out as a lathe shape. So if you can guess what this is going to be, when I click the right mouse button it's going to be a satellite dish. And let's do something more typical. Let's a good old goblet. So let's draw one half of a goblet like so. Whoops, a little bit wobbly here, and see how that comes out. There we have a goblet. So that's basically the two new shapes I've now introduced into the Pi3C modeler. Now I'm cheating a little bit here because I'm actually using the Pi400. Pi400 obviously operates much faster than the Pi0, and the Pi0 I've almost got right, but it's not quite there yet. There's a few glitches with getting the line drawing nice and fluid on the Pi0, so I'm still working on that, but it will work. I've got the ideas to make that work very fluidly on the Pi0, but I haven't had time to introduce it. But anyway, there's just a quick introduction to the two new shapes that we have on the Pi3C modeler. Okay, I've now switched over to the Pi0, and we have that baked textured engine room now running in the editor here. So let's go and explore and see how fast it's running in the Pi0 in full screen. So let's hit the full screen icon, and you'll notice that the textures are running certainly at a good enough frame rate. They're almost comparable with the Pi4. I did get that wrong last time, that I said the Pi4 seemed to be a bit slower. I just hadn't updated the driver, so apologies for that. The Pi400 are considerably faster, running around about 40 frames a second with this particular model. This one's running at around 15 frames, 10 to 15 frames a second, and so it is much slower on the Pi0, but it's still very workable, it's still very usable. So I'm just going to fly around to give you an idea of all the different animations that are in this model. We have the 8 control consoles here that refer to the 8 engines that we have, and everything is more or less correctly lit. Everything was baked more or less, except for the girders. You might notice the girders seem a little bit off. I've actually cheated there and I put girders which are coloured blue. They've still got a little bit of light and shade in terms of the the ambient lighting, but there's no shadowing on the girders, and that's simply and purely because the girders would take too much memory to texture bake, and to have the also the alpha channel as well for showing in between. So for it to work correctly, I'd have to have the light shadow map blended in with the texture. So we've actually got light shadow maps blended in, giving a nice effective shadow and lighting for these girders. But I haven't done that yet. I've still only got a very simple shader in there which blasts textures to the scene rather than combining a light map with the texture. But that can be achieved, and again probably achieved pretty well without much slowdown on the Pi3. I've yet to experiment with that, but overall this effect looks really nice. It's quite effective, and you can see it's running pretty quickly. You'll notice that this sort of texture here, for example, is quite big. This texture on the engine is 1024 by 1024 because it has to incorporate the different coloured lights and different colour shades on that engine, and usually that texture is only 256 by 256, but I had to compromise a bit and make it a lot bigger so that the texture detail comes out with the shadow maps. But I would not be able to do it with something on the girders. That would be far too big, and would not the Pi3 would not cope with it. So anyway, I thought I'd just show you quickly around the effect of baked textures, the fact that you can bake textures, put light shadows. It gives a really nice effect. It's a sort of trick that I used to play and still do in many games that you get today. A lot of things, scenes are just baked. They have no light changing. You can still get away with some sort of effects and some sort of animations with baked textures, but basically that's what you see is what you're going to get. And but you can go through the whole scene, and sometimes it can really be realistically rendered. This is just a quick example of baked textures. A little bit too blue, to be honest, but it's just to give you an idea of what can be done still on the Raspberry Pi Zero, and still with quite a few polygons in view. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that update. Thank you again for watching.